Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and Master Certified Life Coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, today we're talking about one of my all-time favorite coaching tools, and I have a feeling you're going to feel this one in your bones. It's called Envy for Good. Let's go. Welcome back to the Women in the Middle podcast with over 2 million downloads and counting. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your Master Certified Coach, Midlife Life Leadership Mentor, and Certified Zentangle Teacher, and I am so glad that you're here for this one. Really, because today we're talking about an important emotion that gets a terrible reputation. One that most of us were taught to push down, feel ashamed of, and definitely not admit to out loud. I am talking about envy. And I want to make the case, again, and more strongly than ever, that envy might be one of the most useful emotions you have access to right now, especially in your 50s and 60s, especially when you're trying to figure out what you actually want. But just quick, before we dive in, I have a question for you. It is about priorities. Are your priorities feeling murky these days? A little murky. Getting clear about what you actually want makes everything easier, including the fun stuff. What do you think? Are you ready for some clarity? You already know what I love to do. The podcasts, the blogs, the private coaching, the group coaching, the workshops. And now I've got something else for you too. It's a DIY masterclass. It's called Get Unstuck, Midlife Clarity Fast and Easy, and I am excited to share it with you. So here's the deal. You take this fun masterclass and get clear about your next chapter priorities without all the spin, confusion, and overwhelm in less than an hour. Yes, you heard that correctly, less than an hour. It is fast and it's easy, and it's available right now at the introductory price of just $37 US. So if you've been going in circles trying to figure out what you want for your next chapter, this is the shortcut you've been waiting for. You'll walk away with real clarity and a regret-proof power plan so you can stop overthinking and start moving. So are you ready to stop feeling stuck and start feeling clear? Head over to www.midliferoadmap.com and get instant access. Okay, now let's talk about envy. So yesterday I was talking to a friend. She told me that she had reversed her osteoporosis diagnosis back to osteopenia. And my first reaction was, wow, I was so happy for her because she worked hard for that result. The nutrition changes, the strength training, she did the research, she found a specialty clinic, she stayed the course. That takes real commitment, and I was really proud of her. But right underneath that happiness, there it was, envy. Because here's the thing, I have my own bone density situation to attend to, and for the past couple of months, I've been spinning in confusion about it. I've been meaning to take lots of action. I've been thinking about taking lots of action, and I haven't yet taken lots of action, at least the action I know I need to take. Like I got started, but I didn't do all the things I wanted to do. But she did. I didn't. And the envy showed up to make sure that I noticed that gap. Now, I'm going to come back to what I did with that envy in a few minutes because that's the whole point of today's episode. But first, I want to tell you why I've been talking about this particular emotion since almost the beginning of the podcast. The podcast is going to be 9 years old this summer, 2026. And why I feel more strongly about it now in my 60s than I have ever before. Seriously, I've been talking about it a long time, and now, I really feel it's mission critical. So if you've been listening for a while, you may remember that I first talked about envy way back in episode 139, and then again in episodes 392 and 411. I'll put these links in the show notes. It keeps coming up because it keeps being true. So here's the short version in case you're new here. Envy is the feeling of discontented longing for something somebody else has, like a possession, an experience, a situation, a quality. It's not the same as jealousy, which tends to carry more hostility and fear. Envy is simpler than that. It's just, I want what they have, right? I want what they have. And here's what most people do with that feeling. They squish it down. They feel embarrassed by it. They tell themselves it's petty or ungrateful or unbecoming. And then they move on without ever asking the most important question that envy is trying to get them to ask, which is this: why do I want that? Because that question is where the gold is. Now, as I've mentioned, I've been teaching on this for years, but I want to tell you something I've noticed more recently, particularly in my own life and in the women I coach in their late 50s and 60s. Envy at this stage of life isn't just about desire. It's about the gap. So earlier in life, envy tends to point you towards something you want that you've never had. A career, an experience, a lifestyle, those kinds of things. But in your 60s, envy often points you towards something you want and shows you really clearly and sometimes uncomfortably, like squirmworthy, that you've been coasting on getting it. And that's what happened to me yesterday. It wasn't that I didn't know I wanted to take care of my bone health. I knew. I just hadn't done it yet the way I wanted to. I started the meds and I was more aware of the calcium in my diet, but I'd been spinning, and my friend's result held up a mirror and showed me the distance between my intention and my action. Do you see what's happening here? That's envy doing a more sophisticated job than just surfacing desire. It's surfacing accountability. And at this stage of life, when time feels different, when we're more aware than ever of what we don't want to regret, that is a super important distinction. Okay, so there was another envy moment for me recently too. A few colleagues over the past couple of years have posted updates and pictures of buying small condos in Hawaii. And I noticed it immediately, like I was scrolling along and boom, there it was. Having a place to go to that's yours, near the ocean, near whales, that makes my heart sing in a way I can't quite explain. Now, in this example, envy is also busy, but it's not making a plan to get a place in Hawaii. Exactly, that's not it. Envy is pointing directly at something that I want, clearly behind the scenes, without any agenda. So these are two very different envy moments. One about health and discipline and closing the gap between intention and action, and one about a dream I haven't yet let myself take seriously. Both of them are useful. Both of them are trying to help me regret-proof my life. So I don't think this is unusual. It's actually incredibly common for the women I coach and work with. And when I ask or when I simply listen carefully, envy shows up everywhere. And it's almost always a surprise to the woman who's feeling it because she hasn't been letting herself pay attention to it. Can you relate to that? Here's what it tends to look like. A friend who always has time and flexibility, like to visit someone in the hospital, to show up when somebody needs her, to say yes when it matters. And you notice that you want that kind of wiggle room and flexibility in your life. Or a friend who has a real discipline around her health goals. She says no to things that don't serve her body. She protects her workout like it's a meeting she won't cancel. And you notice that you want that kind of commitment to yourself too. Maybe it's a friend who books trips with other friends, with family, sometimes alone. She just does it. She doesn't wait until everything lines up perfectly, and you notice that you want to stop waiting. Or maybe it's a friend who has close friendships, the kind where you confide the real stuff, where someone notices when you're struggling, where you don't have to perform, and you notice that you want that kind of connection too. Or maybe it's a friend who goes away for a chunk of time in the winter, somewhere warmer or somewhere cooler, depending on where you live. And you notice that you want to stop just enduring the season that you're in. Maybe it's a person you know who built a business around something they love, in a beautiful place or connected to a hobby or both. And you notice that you want work that feels like that too. Now, none of these examples are super unrealistic. They're actually pretty common things that are important to many of us. They're ordinary human desires that have been squished because somewhere along the line, somewhere along the way, you started treating your own wants as optional. So envy is just the thing that refuses to let you keep ignoring them. So now here's the part where I give you something concrete to do with all of this stuff, because noticing envy is just the beginning. What you do next is where the real work and the real possibility lives. I'm going to walk you through what I call the FUN framework, F-U-N. And yes, I named it that on purpose because this work should feel more expansive than heavy. So here we go. F is for find your thoughts. U is for understand what you want. And N is for nurture your commitment to yourself. It's my FUN framework. So let's go through each one and apply it specifically to envy. F, find your thoughts. So the next time you feel envy, and now that I've said all of this, I promise you're going to notice it more, don't squish it down. Stay with it. Get curious about it. Ask yourself, what am I thinking now that's creating this feeling? It might be something like, well, she figured out how to make that work and I haven't. Or I've always wanted something like that, but I've never let myself go there. Or maybe like me yesterday, I've been meaning to do something about this and I keep not doing it. The thought is essential, so find it. Next, we have you. Understand what you want. So ask, what is it that they have that I actually want? Be specific. Is it a thing, an experience, a situation? Maybe it's a quality that they have, a feeling their life gives them. And then ask yourself, why do you want it? What would it mean for you to have it? So don't skip this part. This is where vague longing, like longing for something, becomes something real and nameable. Like you want to really understand what you want. Next, we have N, nurture your commitment to yourself. Now, this is where it gets interesting because once you've named what you want, your brain will probably start offering you all the reasons that you can't have it or that you shouldn't want it. It's too expensive. It's too indulgent. What would people think? I don't deserve it. I'm not the kind of person who does things like that. It won't work for me anyway. It's not the right time. That kind of stuff. Notice those thoughts. Write them down if you can, because those are exactly the thoughts that have been keeping you stuck, and they deserve to be examined, not just obeyed automatically. And then, this is really important, I want you to separate your what from your how. Say what you want out loud in your own heart and mind before you figure out a single detail of how to make it happen. Just get used to it. Let it exist. Own what you want. I have a whole episode on this, episode 406, What First, Then How, Midlife Clarity Hack to Get Unstuck. And of course, I'll link that in the show notes as well. But the short version of this is that most of us try to figure out the how we're going to do it, before we've even committed to the what it is that we want. And that backwards order is exactly what keeps the dream from ever seeing the light of day, from ever getting off the ground. So say what you want first, then the how comes later. And when you're ready, when the what feels solid underneath you like a cinder block under a house, then ask yourself, how could I make this happen? Your brain does a really good job of responding to and finding answers to your questions. So challenge yourself to come up with at least 10 different ways. 10, maybe 20, if you feel really like you're in the mood to push yourself. Help your brain work for you instead of against you. This is how you use envy for good. We do a good enough job being hard on ourselves, right? You know that. Mean Girl is alive and well. So is compare and despair. So practice using envy for good to feel good about yourself, to feel curious about what you want, to have fun thinking about all of the ways that you can solve the challenge of doing whatever it is for yourself. Try to get really, really honest, but get honest before your inner critic has time to shut down the idea about what it is that you actually want, to squish it into oblivion. Let your idea breathe. Just let it be. I want to leave you with something. One of the most common regrets that people have is that they didn't let themselves be happier. So really think about that. They didn't let themselves be happier. When I first learned this, I felt like crying. I felt so sad. The regret they had wasn't that they didn't accomplish more or that they didn't work harder. It was that they didn't allow themselves to be happier. They didn't let themselves be happier doing the things they knew they wanted to do. And I think about that a lot because the women I work with aren't exactly unhappy. They're capable, they're accomplished, their lives look fine from the outside. But they've been editing their own desires for so long that they've lost touch with what they actually want. And they may not even know they've been doing this. It's been kind of quiet behind the scenes. Kind of like when you do all the things you do around the house, so much of what you do to keep your house and everyone in it running smoothly is quiet and behind the scenes. Envy is your early warning system. It's the thing that shows up. It's unplanned. Sometimes it's inconvenient. It says, hey, pay attention, my friend. This matters to you. Don't keep walking past it. The osteoporosis conversation, the Hawaii condos, the friend who always shows up, the woman who finally booked the trip. These aren't small things. They're clues, and you owe it to yourself to follow them. All right, that's what I have for you. That is envy for good. So the next time you feel a little pang of envy, don't rush past it. Don't be embarrassed by it. Stay with it. Get curious and ask yourself what it's trying to tell you, because it's not trying to make you feel bad. It's trying to help you be happy. And if today's episode stirred something up for you, like if you notice some desire you've been ignoring, or if you recognized yourself in one of those examples, I'd love to help you take that further. I offer something called a next chapter direction session. It's a focused conversation where we take a real look at what's actually going on in your life, what you may not be seeing, and what needs to change so that you can start moving forward with more clarity and intention. You can book yours at www.talktosusie.com. And if you're ready to do some of this work on your own first, the Get Unstuck Midlife Clarity Fast and Easy Masterclass is waiting for you at www.midliferoadmap.com. Less than an hour, and you'll walk away with a real plan. Thanks so much for being here today. It genuinely means a lot that you spend your time with me in your ear. I hear the best stories about what you're doing when you're listening to the show. Walking through a jungle, walking on a beach, driving the car. I love to hear all of it. For show notes and links, head to www.susierosenstein.com and look for episode 463. And don't forget to check out the Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs podcast as well. It's my other show. And it's all about the reality of running a business as a midlife woman. It's everywhere you listen to your podcasts. Being the queen of your brain domain is still the best way to be. I'll talk to you next week.